Open the tunnel, worthless minions!
Clawlord Ricket's demands, backed up by the presence of hulking Clan Mekrit's storm vermin, were enough to see the exhausted slaves redoubling their efforts in breaching reality's tightly stretched skin. The Gnaw-hole's walls throbbed with sickly light as warpstone-tipped pickaxes struck repeatedly, each slave labouring to avoid catching their master's eye. Ready to flight or flee at a moment's notice, like any self-respecting Clawlord, Ricket's gaze remained locked on the growing split at the tunnel's end. Digging even small gnaw-holes had always involved risks. The sorcerous mayhem unleashed by the Dead Thing's king only intensified those risks. Yet the Horned One was watching over Ricket, not that he ever doubted that. Sudden sharp crackles heralded the gateway snapping open. Slaves squealed as errant warp lightning bolts disintegrated the unluckiest. The Clawlord subtly shied away from the wild magic before barking his clan rats to shove the closer slaves out through the Gnaw-hole's mouth. His storm vermin soon did the same to the clan rats. Only when satisfied that the immediate risks had passed did Ricket dart after them. Blade raised, fangs bared in challenge, Ricket leapt from the Gnaw-hole into conventional reality. The Clawlord suppressed the discomforting tremors of sub-realm passage, though his tail spasmed erratically. Deafening silence stopped him dead. Long corridors stretched into the darkness on either side, faint twinkles of almost starlight from the vaulted ceiling pierced the gloom. The Skaven Lord's whiskers twitched suspiciously as a dangerous frown developed on his sloping brow.
Fool thing,
Ricket snarled, rounding on the Gnaw-hole Dig's cowering clanrat overseer.
I know every round scent. This is not Ashqui. 1,000 pardons, most masterful of masters,
the hapless Skaven squeaked, fumbling with a hastily scribbled map.
The dead thing's boom scream, it...
The clan rat's body thumped to the ground, its severed head joining it, as Ricket's blade descended without warning. The closest slaves swiftly prostrated themselves, squirting musks of fearful deference. The Clawlord nearly slew them anyway. Clan Crank had been very specific when hiring Clan Mekrit's services in storming the workshops of Volcus Mont and bringing their contents, Man-Thing engineers and all, back to Blight City. Failure meant considerable loss of prestige, though Ricket was already compiling a mental list of underlings he could shift the blame onto.
Oh, mighty Lash Liege, come quick.
The storm vermin's cry disturbed Ricket's scheming. Tail twitching, the Clawlord scurried closer as the dark-furred Skaven gestured to a shrouded alcove in the wall. Within a glass case, sealed by arcane-looking locks, a pendant lay upon a velvet cushion. The gem hanging from it on a short chain glittered with an internal brilliance. Realm stone. Ricket would know it anywhere. Hyshian aether quartz, to be exact, if his greedy intuition was correct, and a flawless example at that. The Clawlord's avarice briefly outweighed his caution as he reached for it, only as the concentrated magic potential straining against the case's ward spiked and sent a stinging jolt up his arm did he snatch his hand back. Shaking off the unpleasant prickling aftershocks, Ricket shot a dark look towards any would-be challengers who had witnessed the fleeting lapse. Judging them suitably cowed, the Clawlord cleared his throat and turned to truly explore where he had ended up. The slaves and more unfortunate clan rats found themselves herded before Ricket as the Skaven scampered along the dim corridors. Ashquian blaze oak, packed into crude brass tubes while the Gnaw-hole was under construction, was now alight and strapped to muzzles to provide beams of focused illumination. The vault seemed endless, twisting back and forth, opening into larger plazas, only to branch off into shadowy passageways. Outside the torch beams, the darkness was so total that even Skaven struggled to adapt. It was an artificial darkness, Rickett thought, intended to confuse and disorientate. Yet the murkiness seemed also like the last desperate countermeasure of a system that should never have been breached in the first place. The endless soft whirring that had ghosted down the corridor further fed the Claw Lord's suspicions. Rickett had spent enough time in the presence of machines to recognize the sound of one failing. Spiraling across the walls and floors were the hated symbols of Azir. Stern man-thing faces watched the Skaven's intrusion, but these were not the Storm Things. The style was older, reminiscent of ages lost. Rickett cared more for the immediate treasures anyway. Clockwork armies stood to stiff attention in a pit below a walkway. Caged orbs of fire crackled with sentience as they swung suspended from the ceiling, while the sword hung in midair between two pillars. Black flames occasionally rippled across its length, revealing twisted runes worked into the metal.
Clan Crank will offer many claw packs for this, yes,
Rickett murmured, occupied in congratulating himself for his cleverness in diverting the gnaw-hole. Rickett's finely honed danger senses missed the low wailing that echoed down the corridor. The slaves, however, did not. Several storm vermin drummed their claw tips uneasily against their halberd grips. The Claw Lord turned to accept his minion's congratulations for his masterstroke. He paused as he did so, bemused. Where before had been a total darkness, a softly glowing light now emanated from around the corridor's corner, brightening with each passing instant. The light rounded the corner. The predatory phantasm bearing it was no living being, nor was it dead, though it took the appearance of the latter. Sailing upon a wave of amethyst magic, the skeletal gondolier's empty gaze transfixed Rickett. Upon its oar's handle, a lantern swung with mesmerizing slowness as the spectre glided towards the Skaven. The deathly boatman's hand extended in an almost languid fashion towards the nearest, petrified with fright slave as it passed. The Skaven crumpled like a marionette with its strings suddenly cut. The survivors watched, horrified, as the slave's shimmering soul stuff coiled around the apparition's fingers. It struggled momentarily before being discarded onto the spirit tide, forever compelled to bear the gondola onwards. A panicked shriek escaped Rickett as he reached fruitlessly for his blade. He had just enough time to consider that perhaps this Vault of Wonders had not been built only to keep intruders out. Written by Jordan Green.